What the heck is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Kinda Funny Xcast, your home for all things Xbox here at Kinda Funny. I'm one of your hosts, SnowBikeMike, and today I am joined by my two incredible co-hosts who make me smile, laugh, and gosh darn, just enjoy playing video games. Of course, up first, my man, Parris Lilly. Parris, what's going on, boss?
I am fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm feeling good, Parris. We're back on a Friday, and it's always fun. You know, the energy is high. We're kind of loosey-goosey. We're ready to get out for the weekend, but, it's a Friday. It's nice to be back again with you. How was your week? Did you play anything good?
Week has been good. Got to play some of the Outriders demo, so we'll talk about that a little bit later. I am continuing my journey with Halo 5. I don't know if we want to get into that or not.
Why are you doing this to yourself, man? Just stop.
But one thing I have been doing is I've been playing Forza Horizon 4 with my son. So because he never played it. So we've actually been jumping in together playing that. So it's been a lot of fun too.
That's great. Well, why don't we pause for a moment? Why don't you take me back to Halo 5? Because, we're talking Halo to this week. There's always something Halo related until Halo Infinite comes up. So your journey through Halo 5, where are we at? What are we thinking? What's this week's feelings?
The same as last week. What can I say? It's the game, the level design just it bugs me. The AI and the level design just absolutely bugs me as I go through it. The guns feel great. 343 has done an amazing job with that. Visually, it's stunning, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around that story. That's just all I can say.
That's this week's update in Halo 5 with Parris Lilly. I like that. All right. Well, as long as you continue through it, let's wrap it up and see where you're at the end of it all. But I am glad to hear that you do like, the gunplay, right? I was a big fan of the gunplay. The look was there, right? A lot of people were in our comments, and it was like 50-50. Some people were like, yes, the look was there. The look was very nice, very good for the time it was in the generation. And then some people were like, Parris, Xcast, what are you talking about? The look was awful, and I have to disagree. I think the look was really, really good back in the day, for sure. And even to this day, it still looks good.
Yeah, I think visually it absolutely holds up. Again, the gunplay holds up. That's great. I just wish my problem with the level design, I guess I'll just talk about it a little more. My problem with the level design is it's clearly catered towards a co-op experience. It just is. It's not catered towards a solo experience. And because of that, you have to rely on the AI. And the AI is dumb as bricks. So if you go down, all your AI companions are going to run over to the same exact spot, get sniped the same way that you did, and they're all going to go down too. It happens every time. And it just boggles my mind. So I don't know. That's just my little pet peeve with it. I'd rather talk about more exciting Halo news than to talk about Halo 5. But, it is what it is at this point.
It is what it is. And we actually have some really fun Halo news coming up, and actually a fun Halo surprise that we're going to get into right now, because this week's intro is all about the man, Gary Whitta, the Rogue One. Gary, how you doing today? How you feeling?
I'm good. Why is this? I'm happy. The standard Friday TGIF sentiments to you and Parris and Barrett and to all our viewers and listeners. Why is it all about me, though?
It's all about you, Gary, because today two things are going to happen. One, you got a special package in the mail that we have to talk about. We all can share the fun about. And then the other one is a special one for my mom, because she's thinking about you and she loves all of your awesome accomplishments in life. So we do have a fun thing to do. But first, let's do the easy one. We all got it. Of course, good friends over at Xbox and at 343 Industries with the team over at Halo have sent us over this awesome limited edition Pringles can, actually a box of Pringles, to be honest with you, of
8-pack.
An 8-pack. Yeah. Enough Pringles to kill you here. It's going to be great. But they always say once you pop the top, the fun don't stop. Do you remember that marketing back in the day? That's what they said.
I think I do remember that. Yeah.
So the message from the team over at Xbox and Halo read, something to snack on during the next episode of the Kinda Funny Xcast. Enjoy this taste from the Halo universe, available now at Walmart. We hope you enjoy and you're excited to play Halo Infinite this fall. So this is the Pringles Wavy. I had to go get a double check. I believe this is the Moa Burger.
Yeah, Moa Burger.
Moa Burger. So now I did some research. Shout out to my good friend Adam Bankhurst over at IGN. Wrote up a nice article about what this even is, right? Because I didn't know off the top of my head. I was like, oh, just a burger flavored. So this is actually a flightless bird from Halo Infinite. And this giant ostrich looking bird was also cuisine in Halo Reach. So over in Halo Reach is where this is from. If I said Halo Infinite, my bad. The Moa bird is something ugly looking. And now it's turned into a burger in Halo Reach. This is what they ate. There's an advertisement in the game for it. And I thought, well, if we got the Pringles, we might as well try it together. So let's pop the top, boys. Let's try one Pringle. And
Did you not open
these
up the second you got them, Mike?
No,
Parris and I have already done like half a two for these.
Mike's always thinking about the content. All right, Gary. He's always thinking about the content. And
I'm thinking about the content as well, Barrett. The content of my belly.
Okay,
that's what I'm thinking about.
That's fair. And while we pop these open, y'all have these Pringles. And while you're putting them in your mouth, just let's all think. Remember Reach. Remember Reach.
Remember Reach is right.
That's right. Are we doing a little taste test right now?
Uh-huh. Ooh.
Little ASMR.
I like
that.
I like them. It's pretty good.
Yeah. I'm already at the point in this first tube, you know, where you pass the point where you can just put your hand in and you have to start tilting it to get the chips out. I'm already halfway in. Parris, you said you've already done a whole tube of these.
Well,
right?
I have to admit, we're empty.
Right all the way to the bottom.
Blame my
That's
kids.
good.
My kids.
So I guess kind of a barbecue chip kind of flavor. I feel like it's the closest thing.
Yeah, that's what I was telling my wife. It's kind of barbecuey.
Yeah, not too spicy or anything. I was interested because I looked it up as well. I learned that Moa was a foodstuff that was native to Reach in the Halo mythology. So I was like, the hell's a Moa burger? What is that? Like, I guess it's something to do with Halo. There's always like some mythological tie-in. Interested to learn that it's a bird though, because what looks on the box is like this kind of epic kind of 4-stack beef burger, but I guess it's actually a Moa burger in Halo is more like a chicken sandwich, like a chicken patty, because it's a bird. Right? Okay. I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's a bit late for it to be given the creative notes of shit.
Not bad.
I was very happy. Perfect for the weekend, right? With some weekend snacking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fun one right there. So these are now available over at Walmart. Thank you once again to our friends over at Xbox 343 Industries and the team working on Halo for the fun little Halo Infinite marketing stuff over here. Always cool to see what they're doing. And another conversation piece like we had before with the Monster Energy, the Nerf guns, everything in between with Butterfinger as well, of like, here we are a couple of months out of what would have been released back in November with the launch of this. And, you know, we talked about this. You can't stop the marketing train once we're moving this far ahead, right? These cans had already been produced. Monster had already made the drinks. And, you know, you see that. And now we're kind of living it right now. And it'll be interesting to see as we move further into the year, what's next? Is there a next? Is there any way to hold those a little bit longer? Because we do know they are targeting holiday 2021. So
I'm sure that some elements of the marketing tie-ins they were able to kind of, you know, recalibrate. Some things like the ship had already sailed. But yeah, by the time they'll have recalibrated a bunch of this stuff, and by the time the game actually ships, you're going to see the shower gel and the cornflakes and every other SKU they can possibly do. It's interesting. You got me thinking about these Pringles because it says limited time only, and there's some cute touches. You notice the Pringles guy wearing a little gaming headset and can only get these at Walmart. There's all these different, like, this kind of artificial scarcity that they built into these things to make them an event. Is this like, are there like the Pringles versions of like sneakerheads that have got to get out there and like collect every Pringles flavor the way that, you know, like when Oreos do a special thing, Greg Miller loses his shit.
Oreos,
Are there like Pringles people that have been tracking this for weeks and were like camped out at Walmart like day one to get these Pringles?
There's
I don't know.
someone out there who has like they open up a room and they have collected every single Pringles flavor.
100%.
And it's interesting they went with the wavy as well. I don't know where you guys stand on the flat Pringles versus the wavy Pringles, but these have that little kind of crinkle baked into them as well.
This was my first time in my entire life having a wavy Pringle, so I guess that's where I stand.
I'm the same as Parris. This is the first time I've ever had a wavy Pringle, and I actually kind of dig them. They're a little more crunch, a little more heft to them.
Wasn't bad.
You could make the argument.
I like this.
I've been watching all these mathematics videos on YouTube recently. For some reason, that's like my latest kind of rabbit hole that I've gone down. And one of the things that I've kind of concluded from that, looking at these Pringles, is I think the part of the reason why they do it is that it actually gives you more surface area per chip. to get the flavor onto, because the grooves and the ridges, that's a straight line from A to B is like this long, right? But an undulating line like that from A to B, that's more surface area, more flavor.
Gary,
per
you're
chip.
Making sense. You're making sense.
It's making a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's making a lot of sense.
That is Chip 101 with Gary Whitta. He's going to tell you all about potato chips. And that is a little one half of the intro of the show. Of course, it's all about Gary Whitta this week to start off the show, because my mom called me this week. And, my favorite part about telling my mom about all these awesome, incredible people that I get to work with and make friends with, like Parris and Gary and the whole Kind of Funny team. So my mom calls me this week and she goes, "Oh my God, Mike, did you know that Gary Whitta was also in The Walking Dead?" And I said, "Mom, hold up. What do you mean he was in The Walking Dead?" And I promise I'll tie this into Xbox, everybody. But she was like, "Yeah, he's credited in The Walking Dead as the Pajama Walker." And I said,
best
"Hold
credit
up."
on IMDb, yeah.
So
Gary, one.
And let's talk about zombies. We'll tie it into Xbox in just a little bit. But The Walking Dead, a huge show, awesome stuff. You got to be put up in all the prosthetics. You got to wear the makeup and walk around as the Pajama Walker. Tell us about that, Gary.
I mean, do you want me to tell you the whole story? There's a whole story.
Gary, I love when you tell me stories, and I know all the best friends love your stories. So yes, Gary, tell me the stories.
So I'll take you all the way back to the very beginning. When I was a kid, my parents let me watch whatever I wanted. I would go to the video store and they would just let me bring back any video. They just like, whatever, he'll be fine. And I brought back like George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead when I was like 10 years old, and I watched it, and that movie fucked me up for life in terms of zombies. Like it when you have a kid brain, right, it's like a sponge, right, and shit gets into it in a way that it doesn't penetrate when you're older in life. And so, it's a scary enough movie, anytime, but like for a 10-year-old kid watching, I shouldn't have been watching that movie. And it instilled in me from a young age like a deep-seated terror of zombies. Like it's the only recurring nightmare I still have as an adult is zombies are chasing me. I can't watch anything with zombies in it. It terrifies me. And when I found out that they were making a TV show many, many years later out of The Walking Dead, as it turns out, my manager in Hollywood also represents Robert Kirkman, who created The Walking Dead, and he was a producer on the show. And I had this idea that like maybe this would be a great way. They say like a great way to overcome a fear is to like finally face it. I thought maybe if I could be a zombie and be surrounded by zombies, that would be a way to face my fear. And so I got in touch with my manager and I said, like, can you get me in as an extra on the show? You're going to need hundreds of these zombies, right? Like, what's the harm? And he said, let me see what I can do. And they got me out there. They flew me out there to Atlanta for the pilot episode, 100-degree heat. It's the sequence at the end of the pilot episode where Rick Wright rolls into town on horseback into Atlanta, downtown Atlanta, and the whole city's deserted. It's in that sequence. And, it's a big, big, big crowd scene, hundreds and hundreds of zombies. And I got there and I didn't know what kind of zombie I was going to be. I learned a lot about how they do this stuff. So in these big crowd scenes, they have different kind of layers of zombies. From like the ones that are really, 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 really well made up with the oozing blood and the prosthetics and the contact lenses and the whole thing. Those are the ones that are closest to the camera and get like a lot of camera. So they need to look good. And those are called alphas. The ones behind them are like the next level of makeup down. And those are called betas. And so it goes alpha, beta, Charlie, all the way back to in the very, very back of the crowd. It's really just people wearing a little bit of makeup or just like a shitty mask. And up close, it doesn't look good, but it doesn't matter because they're way back. But the closer you are to the camera, the better your makeup needs to be. And I learned this while I was waiting. I was, oh man, I really hope that I get to be I want to be an alpha. I want all like the full thing. But like I'm just another. I didn't show up with any kind of VIP status. They just got me into the extras pool. So like once I was there, I could have been anything. And I didn't know what was going to happen. And I was sitting around like in the waiting area for them to decide and come out and assign, you're going to be an alpha. You go to this makeup truck. You're going to be a delta. They're going to go give you a mask or whatever. And this guy who Walking Dead fans will know by now, his name's Greg Nicotero, very, very famous guy in the special effects business, did all of Quentin Tarantino's kind of blood and gore effects for his movies. And he did all the blood and gore effects on the Book of Eli. And I was on that set quite a bit, and I got to know Greg very well because I was fascinated by all the blood and gore, and he taught me about all this, like when he chops someone's hand or a head off, how they do it. And I learned a lot from him, and I got to be quite friendly with Greg Nicotero. And Greg Nicotero also did all the blood and gore on The Walking Dead, and he saw me. And he's like, what are you doing? He recognized me from the Book of Eli because we had shot it not long before. And he said, what are you doing here? And I said, I'm here to be a zombie, but I'm just waiting to see if I'm going to be a good one or whatever. He said, come with me. And he took me to his own makeup truck and did all my makeup himself. And he's the top guy. He's the main guy. Yeah. Got that 3 hours in the makeup chair, the oozing blood, the contact. I've never had contact lenses in before. And they're these really, really thick ones, because they have to look kind of bloodshot and you can barely see out of them. And it's a whole thing, but they dressed me up and they got me into this really, really elaborate makeup. And I got to be one of these alphas. And the reason they call me Pajama Zombie was they put me in like pajamas and a robe. Like I just got out of bed in the morning and immediately been like attacked by a zombie before I'd had my cup of coffee in the morning. And that was my outfit, which was great because it was really comfortable to walk around in, especially in that hot weather. Anyway, if you go dial up that episode of The Walking Dead, go to the sequence at the end when they kind of like pull Rick down off the horse and they eat his horse and he scrambles under a tank. You'll see me in there. I'm one of the zombies that pulls him down off the horse. So that's my story.
Oh, wow. That is awesome. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really, really fun.
Yeah.
Really, really fun.
That's rad. Thank you so much for that story, Gary. It was one that my mom couldn't get over, and we always love talking to you and Parris because you guys have all the cool stories, right? That's the best part about being here with all of you and the Kind of Funny crew. Is like, there's some great people out there with some incredible stories to tell. And so I thought we'd talk a little bit of zombies because guess what, y'all? Undead Labs, of course, a while back showed and confirmed that they will be making a State of Decay 3. So we saw the cinematic reveal trailer back in, I believe, the June 1, something like that. It all blends together now. But back during one of the Xbox preview events, we saw this, which is the cinematic trailer for State of Decay 3. A different look, a different vibe than what we're used to with the State of Decay franchise. Of course, it is cinematic, so of course it's going to have this nice high-profile look to it. But I wanted to get back into zombies. I wanted to talk about zombies over on the Xbox side because not only have we seen State of Decay with 1 and 2, but we have Stubbs the Zombie returning here with his little reboot or remake of the original game. And then, of course, we have the Dead Rising franchise that kind of came and went, and we don't know if that will ever return after what we saw with 4. So I wanted to pose the question to you guys is let's start off with State of Decay. Have you guys played it before? And what are some of your hopes and dreams? And what are your thoughts on this cinematic trailer? Where do you think we'll go with State of Decay 3? Parris, I'll let you go first on that one.
I have not played State of Decay 2. I did play the original. And when it comes to 3, when you go by that trailer, I don't have it in front of me right now, but when you go by that trailer, it does seem like they're taking it in an interesting direction that, I would definitely would have me return to the franchise. Like when I think of zombie games, like I've just been a big Left 4 Dead guy. So, right? That's my type. Like Back 4 Blood is kind of the spiritual successor that's going to come to that. And it seems like what they're doing with State of Decay isn't exactly like that, but it's doing it in a way that, I would love to jump into that world, come in there with some friends and explore and do all that. So I'm interested. I want to see the actual gameplay. I guess that's what I'm trying to get to. The trailers are all great. Obviously, the trailers can be a misrepresentation of what the final game's going to be. So hopefully, knock on wood, this year, we actually see some gameplay from it so we can get a better idea of what their true vision is going to be.
Gary, where do you fall on the State of Decay franchise? You're kind of afraid of zombies, but will you play zombie games is the question now.
So I did play State of Decay 2. I usually don't play zombie games. So the thing is, that whole experiment didn't work. I still had nightmares about zombies after. Like, it didn't do anything to to kind of, get rid of my deep-seated childhood fear of zombies. I was fine on the day, but I still had nightmares about them and still do. And I can't watch anything to do. I've never gone back and watched those movies. The Dead Rising games, even though they're kind of comedic, I have a hard time with scenes of big seething throngs of kind of slow moving zombies kind of shambling around a shopping mall. It brings back all the trauma of watching that Romero movie when I was a kid. I know this sounds silly, but it really I shouldn't have watched that movie when I was 10 years old. It really did mess me up. And so zombie movies, TV shows, video games, I generally tend to stay away from. The fast moving ones, like the 28 Days Later style ones, I'm fine with. It's the slow ones that I don't, the Romero ones, the Walking Dead type ones that I have an issue with. I don't know why. They're just something kind of more creeping it's not that they're going to chase you down. It's just the fact that they're just eventually going to get you. And it's like almost the fact that they're slow just like drags out like how agonizing it is. And so I played a bit of Dead Rising, but again, for precisely this reason, I couldn't really get into it. And I did play a little bit of State of Decay 2 because it was on Game Pass. And I was it's not very, very zombie heavy. It's just it's mostly kind of, I almost got kind of like, this was like before I'd experienced Rust, but it's almost like kind of Rust light, or because it has a lot of kind of resource management. You've got to go get some planks of wood and a fuel can, and there's a lot of like just doing the basic things that are necessary to survive. And that's become a really, really popular style of gameplay in recent years. Rust is huge again right now. Everyone's talking about Valheim, these games, where you're just trying to kind of, DayZ, all these kind of games where you're just trying to kind of like cobble together enough shit to survive from day to day. It's not my cup of tea. I tried it a little bit because it was on games. Well, again, we talk about how great Game Pass is, right? Oh, I've heard good things about this. Doesn't hurt to try. It's on Game Pass. Gave it a try. Didn't really do it for me. I thought the cinematic trailer for the new one, obviously, next generation, it looks a lot better. If it's the same style of gameplay, though, I'm probably not going to engage with it. I don't think it's for me.
Interesting there, Gary. Yeah. So, of course, I've played a lot of State of Decay, and I do like that resource management, base building, adding new survivors into your community, and then also the added addition of permadeath I always thought was really fun, right? Of like, who will I choose? Oh, this guy got tired, or he's low on health. I got to switch over to Susie now. Susie runs out there and she dies, and I'm heartbroken, or I'm like, oh, thank God I saved Billy. Everything is fine now. But I have always enjoyed that, and I really liked the big open world that they created here in the fictional Americas that they had. And I thought that was really fun. And I enjoyed State of Decay 1 of that kind of loop, right? Of like, go to the base, bring back all your resources, resupply everything, upgrade pieces of your base, go to the next spot, do the same thing. And like that loop, I kind of get caught in. It's almost like when people say like, this is a good podcast video game or a good music video game, because it is just go out there, kill a bunch of zombies, come back with the resources, grow a little bit, do it over and over again. And I always thought, man, I'm missing something. And that is the element of multiplayer and my friends. And I really love that State of Decay 2 added that, right? But the issue was it added a lot of jank. It added a lot of connection issues that we all saw early on with that. And it has had some time. The Juggernaut edition has come out and it's really fixed some of those problems, but it still persists to this day whenever you play that. And there's a lot of question marks with that multiplayer, right? Of like, tethered to your teammate there. You got to be with them at all times. It's their world, not your world. It's not a shared world. And when we look into State of Decay 3, you have to assume that they're going to double down on multiplayer. And I wonder where it would go from here, right? Exactly. Well, is it going to be a Valheim? What do you think,
Well, see, that's, I guess, going back to what I was saying at the beginning, that's why I'm hopeful. I want to actually see more gameplay. And of course, people call me when I'm talking. I should cut my phone off when I'm recording. But I'm hopeful that they do double down on the multiplayer, obviously take the lessons learned from the things that you're saying with State of Decay 2, and make this more of an exploratory game with your friends and basically out in the zombie world, and maybe not focus as much on the resource management. I mean, obviously that's still going to be there, I'm sure, but make it more, hey, get with a couple of your buddies on a Friday night. Let's go out into the world and let's see what crazy shit we can get into today, kind of thing. That's what I want to see, from State of Decay 3, but clearly we can't take a lot from that trailer to know right now. So again, hopeful, but hopefully we get to see more later this year.
Yeah, I'm really hopeful as well, Parris, of like, I want to see almost a massive multiplayer world, right? Because we always knew it was 1 through 4 players and your resource management, building your base. I want to see where I join a server and there's 30, there's 50 people, and now we're warring factions. We're shooting at your base. I'm stealing your resources. You come back to mine. And I wonder what that will look like. Because as Gary said, right, these kind of survival co-op resource management games are blowing up, right? And we've also seen Grounded now over with the Xbox stable being added to all this. And it will be interesting of like, now, Microsoft is really supporting this team. Matt Booty and them believe in this group. They believe in Undead Labs and what they can do. So State of Decay 3, that cinematic trailer had a different vibe. It had a different touch. Sure enough, it was, it was a CGI trailer, but now it's up in the mountains and it's a lot of snow all around, which we've never seen in State of Decay. It had animals now with the outbreak. So could that play a factor? What will we see when we look into this? So it's really exciting. And I thought we could, pair it up with Gary Whitta's zombie story, because who doesn't love Gary Whitta dressed up. I will pose one more question because I was a big Dead Rising guy. I loved Dead Rising back on the 360, being trapped in the mall with Frank West. Of course, the timers were a little bit bad. People will talk about the timers all the time, but like those scary psychopaths they had to battle out in the mall, trying to go out there and find the Zombrex and number 2 for your daughter. I thought it was a really fun time, and the comboing of weapons and how you could build out your own weapons moving through the series. And I really loved actually all of the State of Case, to be honest with you. I had so much fun with all of them, and kind of sad to see that go to the wayside. Did you guys enjoy Dead Rising ever back in the day?
I mean, like I said, I struggled with it just because of the zombies and the shopping mall stuff. But I very much appreciated the kind of game that it was. I thought it was a lot of fun. I appreciated the tone. Feels a lot closer. A lot of people are commenting on this new Zack Snyder movie, the Vegas zombie movie, and saying, "Oh, it looks like they turned Dead Rising into a movie." It really does have that kind of vibe to it. And I think, I thought they did a good job of kind of managing the tone, and it was scary and an impressive number of zombies on screen. Back then, for essentially, a much older generation of Xbox. That might be where a couple of things. We talk all the time about Xbox needs to kind of play every card that it has in terms of we have this, we have this, we have this. Dead Rising is really well known as one of the big Xbox franchises, right? It was an Xbox One launch title, or at least launch window.
Dead Rising.
It was like a launch window.
It was right there. People loved it. Think about what you could do with. I was playing World War Z with some friends recently, and I thought one of the things that World War Z, both the movie and the video game, brought to the zombie genre, which is like how many new ideas can you do? But the one thing that I thought was really fresh was that whole idea of like almost like a tidal wave of human bodies coming at you. It's just a totally different. There's just so many bodies. There's just so many of them. It almost becomes like one big biomass of death that's coming at you. And I don't know if you played the World War Z game, but they actually did a brilliant job of bringing that into the game. And it was really terrifying and fun and dynamic, and just shooting into the, pumping machine gun bullets into this big, tsunami of human bodies that was coming at you was really, really exhilarating and fun. And I just kind of feel like, I guess what I'm saying is there's tremendous opportunity for a new Dead Rising game with, the next generation technology that we have now. They did a great job with it on Xbox One. You could go to the next level now, though, with huge hordes of zombies and the kind of locations you go to. A lot of opportunities. We said before, Xbox has got some things. Obviously, it's not theirs to own. It's a Capcom title. But it's always, I think, associated with Xbox first and foremost. I would like to see them play that Dead Rising card this generation. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, I would just kind of co-sign what Gary's saying, and like that last point that you brought up, I was going to say, as far as maybe it's not even really their decision right now if they can, because it's a Capcom game, and maybe Capcom has other plans to what they're planning to do with it. But I do think now in this current generation with better hardware, especially with this SSD, with the faster loading times and things like that, I could see a next generation Dead Rising with hundreds of zombies on screen at once making a lot more sense, and being a blast to play, so to speak. Because like you said, the last one that was on the Xbox One was fun I guess it was at launch. Was it at launch window, whatever it was? But it was fun. It was a fun game to play, and there's definitely something left in the tank to explore in that franchise. So hopefully it does come back as just like a true next generation game, like I said, to take full advantage of the hardware.
Even what, sometimes what I wouldn't be unhappy with, just remaster it. Just give us the original game, or do like a trilogy, because the three of them that they did. Let's have like a Dead Rising remastered trilogy to take advantage of the Series S and X. Like just that alone would be pretty cool, I think. Yeah, I agree. One thing I wanted to bring up, and this is taking it way back to when you were first talking about zombies and everything. I want to give another, because I'm old too, example of bad parenting in the 80s. So Gary, they let you watch whatever you want on tape, but my parents took me to the theater. This had to have been 1980 to go see Friday the 13th.
Hell yeah.
And I what was I, like 7 years old or something like that at the time? At the end, when Jason jumps out and drags the girl into the water, that scarred me for probably the next 10 years. Just nightmares.
Oh my gosh.
Thanks, Mom and Dad.
Talking about nightmares here to kick off our podcast. I love that. Well, I want to give a big shout out to all the awesome zombie games out there. from Dying Light to Dead Island. Of course, you got to give some love to The Walking Dead with Telltale. Dead Rising 1 through 4 will always be one of my favorites. And of course, State of Decay 1 and 2, and so many more in between.
Don't forget, we got Back for Blood coming soon, too.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one. That's
when you say Back for Blood, guess what? One of our stories of the week is a very similar game to Black for Blood. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But let's jump into some housekeeping news and get us into the show. This is the Kind of Funny Xcast. We post each and every Saturday at 6 a.m. West Coast, Best Coast time on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, roosterteeth.com, and on podcast services around the globe. Tomorrow, a quick heads up for all the best friends out there. Tomorrow, a new episode of the Kind of Funny Next Gen podcast goes up on Sunday at 6 a.m. West Coast, Best Coast time for the gold tier supporters on patreon.com/kindoffunny and patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. So go join the next generation of Kind of Funny on their podcast journey as they bring you the laughs, the smiles, the fun, and the conversation. So go check that out.
So the main topic for this month was the Twitter poll that Blessing put up earlier this week, which was if you had to delete one animation history, Hanna-Barbera or Disney, which would you cut? And it just goes into a lot of wild different directions, let me tell you.
I like that. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Mick, the nanobiologist, Tyler Ross, Joy, Trent Berry, Mizuki, Man Bear Paradox, Julian, the gluten-free gamer, Alex J. Sandoval, Sancho West Gaming, James Hasting, Elliot, and Casey Kern. This episode of The Kind of Funny is sponsored by Freshly, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's jump into this week. Guys, we had a really fun weekend. Of course, Outriders demo is now live. That will be living forever. Of course, we talked about that full crossplay, totally for free. You can get your character up, I believe, level 7, maybe. I forget right now on the full details, but it's up and living forever. And I thought I'd go to my guy, my man in the street, the dude who knows it all about games as a service, Destiny, whatever you have you, Division. Parris, tell me your thoughts on the Outriders demo. What'd you thought about it? What were your impressions?
It's fun. I'm having fun with it. And just to tell the backstory on it really quick, I got to play it a year ago, right before the pandemic. So that was the last thing I did before we all got locked in our homes for a year. But it's been interesting seeing it a year later compared to when I originally played it. And believe it or not that much has changed. So you know, in that time frame, when it's not a bad thing, to be honest with you, because even when I played it a year ago, I thought it was fun. The main thing, and not to bog it down into all the technical details, but you know, people can fly who made Gears of War Judgment made this. So I view this kind of as a cross between Gears of War meets Destiny with just a sprinkle of the Division in there as well.
Yeah, I like that.
You know, and the guns feel good. The gunplay does feel good. The abilities feel good as well. And there's 4 of them. There's with Devastator, there's the Trickster, which is my favorite class to do, the Techromancer and the Pyromancer. Almost like you got your Titan, you got your Warlock, you got your Hunter, and you got a but it's good. It's a good squad-based shooter. If I had any complaints, it would be that the cover system still needs some tweaking to it. It doesn't feel good. You're not really sticking the way that you would expect, like in a Gears of War game or even like in the Division, right? While I like the gunplay, and again, we're still early in it because, you know, you can only go up to level 7. I just hope there's more variety in the various weapons we can get, especially when you go up into, like, you know, the legendary exotics, all that kind of stuff, right? The story for me, I don't care. I really don't care. And I get that they've created this new world, and I think there is potential there, but the story is definitely like grabbing me to where I'm not hitting that B button to just skip the dialogue. It's not grabbing me. But when I'm actually in the action, especially when you're on co-op and you're starting to synergize the different abilities together, you know, to take on some of these enemies, oh, it's fantastic. It's fun. It is a lot of fun. I can see some weekends with friends really diving into and having a blast. My thing, because again, this is just early in it, they're letting you play the first chapter, which is great as far as it being a demo. I want to see more in game, and I'll give People Can Fly major props with a lot of the videos that they put out, because they do have a video out kind of explaining their approach to Endgame, and I think it's a solid one. I want to see it in practice. I want to see, once I actually get to that point, what's going to keep me coming back every day, every week, every month. What challenging events are they going to have there? What is the loot table going to look like once you get there? Because at its core, this is a looter shooter. But the fact that this is cross-play, day one, out of the box, if you play on PC, all the different, they're taking all the quality of life features that you would expect in a PC game, and they're putting them in there. It's great. This is an Xbox show. I played it on the Series X, and there's still some technical bugs to work out. I believe Digital Foundry has a video up right now. It's not necessarily hitting that rock solid 4K 60 that they promised. They've even said it's supposed to do 4K 60 on the Series S, which was shocking to me. And I've not tried it on the S, so I can't confirm what it's doing there. But I have seen some technical issues with the Series S as well. But the game's not out yet. It's not final. They still have time to tweak some of that stuff and fix it before the final product hits in April. But overall, it's fun. If you're into looter shooters, if you're in the squad-based things, if you love Gears, if you love The Division, or you love Destiny, it's absolutely worth checking out. I think it has a lot of potential down the road. Yeah, I'm interested to see when it finally hits. Got a game to talk when it comes out finally in April.
Yeah, it's right around the corner. And Parris, you said it best for me. It's like, it feels like another looter shooter, and that's what I want, right? I love these experiences with my friends, and I think this is one where we're kind of, Division 2 has run its course. Sure, it's still going to get some support later on, but you've played a bunch of Division 2. You're either die hard into Destiny 2, or you've played it, you've been there, you've done that. And I love the cycle that we get in with these games of here comes the next big thing. Here comes another one for you to go check out and play with your friends, no matter how far you get. And this one, to me, after playing the demo, I was like, all right, cool. I like the world that we're building out here. I like these scary looking kind of Uruk-hai orc monsters from the Lord of the Rings look. And I really like the abilities, right? I like that there's 4 classes to choose from. I like that each one is so unique. And I really enjoyed when I was playing with Greg Miller live on the stream of once we finally figured it out of hey, let's combo these abilities together, right? Instead of me running off by myself, I'll slow down time as the trickster. You hit him with the pyro blast. I'll sword swipe him. And it is really cool to see those abilities work in unison. And I really loved that. And I will agree with you, right? I think the biggest complaint that I heard from Greg yelling the whole time during our play session is why am I in cover and then I do an ability and I pop out of cover, right? Let me just do it and fall back into it. But it was interesting to feel that, and it felt like Gears of War, like you said, right? You pop into cover and you could hold A to go to the next cover, which I really loved right there. That reminded me of Gears of War of find that path, aim at it, and it will run for you nice and easy while you're holding A. Love that feel. There's a lot of quality of life things that I noticed that I enjoyed, right? When you're doing a mission, if you hit left on the D-pad or maybe up, either way, it will actually track to where you need to go on the mission on the screen with a live little tile. And I love that, right? I hate getting lost in these games. I think of the Division 2 with Greg of hey, go find this safe house or go find something. And it wouldn't tell us where we need to go. We'd just be running around the building aimlessly until we found the door. And it's Greg, what are we doing here, right? And so I love that there's these small quality of life that you can see years after years, game after game, slowly coming into this. And I'm pumped up about it. I'm kind of excited to jump in with my friends, check this out, because it is full crossplay. And now I don't have to start doing the head count of, oh, Gary, where are you? Oh my gosh, now Greg is playing on PlayStation. We're all together in this, which I really like. And I think they have a good foundation. I agree with you. There's some things they need to work on and improve upon. But this does get me excited for April of hey, this is at least going to be a solid weekend for me and my friends. And it could be more because it is that looter shooter, that grind fest of getting the ultimate items and going forward with that. I do want to see Endgame. We talk about that all the time, right? Division 1, Division 2. I grinded it out in a weekend and then there was nothing to do, right? And I know I'm one of those crazy guys that do that kind of stuff, but it is for those wild people out there, what's next, right? And so I'm excited to see what they got.
But what you're saying, and this is just because, I'm just a longtime Destiny and Division player, so, I'm just used to this at this point. I think developers think they're giving us enough content because, again, I highly suggest people go watch those Outrider videos that People Can Fly put out because they lay out their roadmap, what their thinking process is on a lot of the end game stuff. And I do agree with it, and it looks exciting, but we inhale this content so quickly. And like you said, the diehards that are really going to want to jump into the end game, they might think, oh, this will last them a month, 2 months before, and we'll have the next stuff ready. We'll be done with that in a weekend. weekend, 2 weeks, and we're like, okay, give me more. I need more. What am I chasing now? Where's that new secret mission? Where's that new gun that I got to get? You know what I mean? So I hope they're taking lessons learned from these previous games so they can understand that. One other minor, I don't even say minor, but we'll see once we get to the final game. I don't know about you guys when you're playing with Greg, but like the difficulty scales with the world tiers, like you go world tier 1 up to 5, it felt too easy to me. I do think they need to tweak the difficulty level. Like it just felt like a snap for me to just get all the way up to 5, where I was expecting more of a challenge. And that's one thing I remember from a year ago till now. I almost felt like they decreased it a little. Like it felt a little harder when I played it a year ago, where it was easier this time around. But again, this is what demos are for. This is what this time is for them to get feedback from the community so they can go in and tweak these things, you know, when the final game comes out. And look, I'm not expecting it to be 100% perfect. Nothing ever is. But, you know, as long as they're aware of it, as long as they're communicating, you know, with the community about it so that they can address these things as soon as possible, that's all you can ask for in these. And this isn't even really a live service game, but these shooter type games where you're going to have these co-op things and you're chasing loot and you're repeating activities, so to speak, you know, to quote unquote grind out to get to a certain thing.
I agree. I felt like sometimes, I know my friends really harped on it in my circles, of like, it felt so easy where I didn't need to be in cover, right? There was numerous times where I was just running around as if it was Halo and I was just shooting left and right and I didn't care about the cover system. So it will be interesting to see what that is. Gary, I want to pose the question to you to get you involved in the conversation. Have you checked out this beta? And if you haven't, Gary, I know that you are a fan of Fall Guys like I am, and I know you've played all these games of service and you've hit that point where it's like, give me more. What does that look like to you, and how do developers give enough to these players out there that are diehards and want more and more and more? How do you satisfy that?
I mean, that's the big challenge in all of these games right now, whether it be Division or Destiny or everyone that's going down these, you know, these kind of live service loot grind kind of games. I think we're still trying to crack that code. The game developers are, game designers are anyway. First of all, in terms of this one, I haven't played the beta, but I did watch you and Greggy play it a little bit this week on Kind of Funny. Definitely got a Gears of War Division kind of vibe from it. You know, felt very familiar. Not necessarily, I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing. First of all, cross-play. You know, that's going to get 2 big thumbs up from me. That's if you ever listen to me on Xcast or on Games Daily, you know, that's been my big hobby horse for ages. I'll just use Division 2 as an example. That's a game that I loved and still love, but I fell off of it because there was an issue with having people that I wanted to play with. I chose to play on Xbox, but a lot of the people that I wanted to play with ended up being on the other side of the Berlin Wall, and I couldn't get to them. Had the game been crossplay out of the box, I don't think I would have fallen off of that game. It's a huge issue. I'm going to stop harping on about it because I honestly think the war's been won. Crossplay's here. It's coming. It's now been won.
It is.
And now we're just waiting for everyone, the last few stragglers, to kind of catch up. You know, they even mentioned it in the Epic Fall Guys acquisition this week. Crossplay's coming. You have to do it now. There's no excuse anymore. You've got to have crossplay in these games. The walls have to come down, and they are coming down. So that's one big strike in its favor. Like you said, Mike, you don't have to do that math anymore. Oh, but Mikey's over here and Parris is over there. Like, what if I want to play with both? Well, that's going away. Thank God that finally is going to be consigned to history. Our grandkids are going to be sitting on the porch going, you know, back in the day you had to decide like who you wanted to play with because we were all on different formats. No, really? That sounds like the Stone Age. Yeah, we lived through the Stone Age with this bullshit, and I'm so glad that we're finally coming out of it. In terms of this game specifically and the question that you posed, it's, I don't know how much of an issue it is. It strikes me that it theoretically it feels like it is, but in a practical sense, often it isn't. And what I mean by that is I'm always aware of the repetitive, cyclical, grindy nature of these games, right? Go and kill a bunch of guys, get a slightly better gun than the one you had before, bring it back to the base, repair your shit, and do it all over again. And that sounds really, the idea of that kind of repetition sounds really boring. And yet one of the things that we know from playing these games is that players seem to love it. Psychologically, we find that repetition really pleasing and familiar. You know, and the point has been made many, many times, whether it be Warcraft or The Division, that you're playing the same game at level 1 that you are at level 50, just the numbers that are popping off the guys when you're shooting them are bigger. Right, that's it. That's the only
Gary,
thing.
Gary, don't tell him that. Don't tell him the secret, Gary. That's crazy.
I've heard people say it many times. I've heard people say it, and they're not being ironic. They're saying it for real. I love watching those numbers go up. You just want to see the numbers get bigger, doing more damage. Even though the underlying mechanic, Parris, hasn't changed, right? It's the same game. Destiny at level, I know it's different. It's like Destiny at power level 200 is not. I know once you get into raids, the content starts to evolve more. But in terms of the grind, it's the same game, right? Just the numbers get bigger as the weapons get more powerful.
Yeah, but Gary, I don't have that adept auto rifle that you get after you grinded all these multiple times. The new shiny, so I can post.
That's what I mean. You got to have the new shiny. We love the new shiny. We love the loot boxes. We love getting those rewards. Again, it's the rat in a maze. Press the red button. Get a cookie. Get a little piece of rat kibble, and we love that. We're all rats in a maze, and that psychology works on all of us. I do think, however. And in terms of this specific game, I have a couple of thoughts. And one is kind of the narrative context of it. Like, one of the reasons why I enjoy Division 2 more than Destiny, even though they're very similar games. I know one's first person and one's third. And I do tend to prefer cover shooters more than first person games. One of the reasons why I stuck with Division 2 more than I stuck with Destiny, I did play Destiny for a decent amount of time, but Division 2 much more, was I just felt more engaged with the world. I just, that grounded, more realistic world felt more interesting to me. Obviously, it ended up being way more realistic than I'm sure they wanted it to be with the pandemic and everything. But I just, something about kind of creeping around New York City or Washington, D.C. and kind of hiding behind like a cop car or like bullets are kind of pinging off of it. It just felt, I just dug that world. It's a Destiny, though, to me, I still don't know. I still can't tell you what that mythology is, what that world is. It's just a lot of nonsense. It's just a lot of proper nouns and jargon. But I can't tell you what I could never engage with the mythology or the world building or the narrative content. And that's important to me. Like I'm a story guy, right? So I need to know what the world is. I need to understand why my character is doing what they're doing within the world building and the narrative context that the game is established. And that can be make or break for me. It could be the exact same game in terms of mechanics and the loot grind or whatever. It could be the same game in every way. But if one has an engaging story and world building and the other one doesn't, that's going to be the difference for me. Not everyone's like that. Plenty of people still click through the cutscenes and they just want to see the numbers go up. But I got to have the story. I got to have the context. And for me, Division and Destiny, that was the big difference. Outriders, like Parris, you said that you weren't particularly engaged by the story. I don't know what the details are, but I don't know. From the minute that I saw it felt a little bit generic.
Yeah, and that's part of it. It feels very generic. There's nothing that's grabbing me about the story. They're like, oh man, I really need to pay attention to this. It's more of, all right, okay, you're done talking. All right, boom, boom, boom. I can go back to shooting things. I cared more about that. And it's so funny that you're saying with the Division and Destiny, and again, I'm biased. I've been playing Destiny forever, but I'm way more engaged in the mythology and the story of Destiny than I am the Division. Like, I can tell you all Sabathun and the upcoming thing with the Witch Queen and why that's so important. I can tell you about all that stuff. But the Division, I don't know. I'm just running around New York or running around Washington, D.C. shooting stuff. That's all I care about.
And again, and conversely, I can tell you all about Aaron Keener and Gordon Amherst.
Yeah. And I mean,
again, different stories, resonate in different ways with different people. So that is largely subjective, I think. Like, some people like the more kind of esoteric, almost kind of 1970s sci-fi vibe that Destiny brings to the table. Yeah. I like my shit to be a little bit more grounded, and I need to just relate to it a little bit more. And I've always been a fan of the Tom Clancy books and that kind of ripped from tomorrow's headlines kind of bullshit. Is like that's my flavor. That's what I like personally. And so that game was always going to have a leg up with me. But that's one of the first things I always think about when I see a trailer for a new game is like, what's the story? What's the context? Is it going to keep me interested? Because if otherwise all you're doing is seeing the numbers go up, that's not going to sustain me. I'm going to get bored of that really quickly unless there is some narrative context or a sense of immersion. Like, one of the things that I enjoy when I think about like the all-time games that I've loved the most, like the Mass Effect games, or most recently Like a Dragon. I don't think about myself just playing that game. I think about spending time in that world and being immersed in that world and being surrounded by those characters. And so I ask myself the question every time: the gameplay mechanics aside, is this a world I want to spend time in? And that to me, and that goes to story, that goes to character, that goes to the narrative context that you create.
Yeah, I feel that way like about The Witcher as an example, playing The Witcher 3. I just love being in that world, right? More so than I'm worrying about the gameplay mechanics. Like I feel like it's taking me to a destination that I feel comfortable in, that I'm excited to be a part of, and I just want to explore it and be a part of it. And then Mass Effect is another great one as well, where there's just so much about that world that BioWare built that I want to keep coming back to it. I want more from it. It's like, please give me more, which again was why I was super excited about Cyberpunk 2077, because I felt that Night City was going to be this world I was going to immerse myself into. So I do agree, there are absolutely games where the narrative, lore, and just everything that a game can provide really enhances the experience. And there's other ones where I just want to go shoot shit. And that's fine too. So that's what makes gaming so great.
There are plenty of games where I just love to shoot shit, but I guarantee you that pretty much every game that I've got like 80 or 100 hours in, they all have some kind of narrative backbone that creates that world I want to spend time. In the long term, you've got to have, there's got to be more than just the mechanic, I think. Mike, where do you stand on this? Do you skip cutscenes or do you get into the storytelling?
I like to get into the storytelling, but it is interesting as you brought up like this looter shooter grind, and you also have to add in the multiplayer aspect, right? When I'm playing with my buddies, we're shooting the shit. They're talking in the background. I can't hear the story half the time. So it is, hey, skip this. Let's run this. Let's roll this, right? And it just becomes mindless shooting. But it is interesting, like you said, right? What is that world, that environment that I get lost in? I actually swing to the side of Destiny more than the Division, right? I was kind of lost with the, oh, we're just in New York in this post-pandemic world. The guy has gone crazy, as opposed to like, hey, here's this epic sci-fi tale. And I think I've always been drawn to outer space, the colors that you see, the different planets that you encounter, the different aliens that you'll go out there and fight, as opposed to like, hey, here's some junkyard dog over there. There's some junk rat guy with a bunch of stuff all over him. So the setting is big. And it's funny you guys bring that up. I love talking about that. It's like, setting will be key for these games, right? You got to have a great setting, and then the story falls into that, and then the numbers going continuously up. But what else do we need? What else does this team need to, right? Is it more extra missions with more story? Is it a raid? Is it these dungeons that we've seen before, the mini raids? This is one of those conversations where once I beat it all and once I've done it all, now I'm clamoring for more. And it's like, what is the output pace? I want to know. Is it 2 weeks? Is it a month? Is it 3 months? Is it a raid? Is it a dungeon? What will keep you two satisfied with you and your friends as we look to that next moment? So, Parris, I'll pose that to you. Is like, what does this team need to hit? Is it X amount during X amount of weeks? What does that look like to you on the drip feed?
Yeah, to me, it's that challenging content in the end game, which is like you're saying, a raid potentially, the dungeon type events, which aren't going to require 6 or 8 people all at once, but just you and your fire team, so to speak, that are going in, and it's challenging, and at the end there's a reward that feels satisfying to you, that makes you want to go back and do it again. Clearly this game doesn't have isn't going to have like just this big giant raid or something like that, but as long as there's something engaging, my whole thing is, and it's so funny how Gary down, it almost crushed my dreams the way he broke it down, but it's true.
Yeah.
I just want to see the numbers go up, right?
Yeah.
I want that carrot on the end of the stick that I'm constantly chasing. So as far as the cadence on that goes, you have to be realistic. There's not going to be something every week. There may not even be something every month. But I just say, as long as the developer can give me the roadmap on when I can expect certain events, I can plan around that. Because if I'm hitting a part of the cycle where there's a lull, I'll just go play something else and then I'll come back. But I just want to know that my time is valued and that there is going to be something that I want to get. Do I need to grind to get to a certain level? Is there a certain, steps I have to take to get to that moment? Are there going to be secret missions in there potentially that I can go discover with my friends and find? Because, Destiny's been really good about that. I would say on the flip side, someone that hasn't been great about that is the Avengers. Greg and I just talked about this on Kind of Funny Daily. Just everything they're going through right now, and they're not able to keep up with a cadence that's getting people to come back and get people excited to engage. So it's like the people can fly. They have to look at who's doing it right, who's doing it wrong. What can we take from both to shape what their game is going to be so that people stay engaged for the long term? Because my fear with Outriders is I'll play through that campaign. I'll have a blast with my buddies. We'll play it for a few weeks in the end game. and then that's it. We're done. All right, I'm on to the next thing, because it's what the Division 2 kind of struggled with. I felt like the Division 2, out of all these games, they had the best opening into jumping in, going through a campaign, getting to that end game with the Black Tusk, and then it had you go through all the different I'm forgetting the exact term right now, but the different bases that you had to hit week to week. It had me coming back, but once you were done, they didn't have any more compelling content beyond that first raid to make you want to come back. And the loot that you got for completing those challenging events just didn't matter. So that's the balance that they're going to have to find with a game like this. Like, what is it that's going to make me want to come back and keep chasing something? I need my carrot on the stick. If they don't have the carrot, then I'm not going to be there.
And Parris, to your point, there's nothing shameful about the carrot on a stick. You know, the whole point is like, we all acknowledge that it works, right? Just because we can see the man behind the curtain and we understand how they're psychologically pressing our buttons doesn't mean we don't respond when they press these. Like, I know what you're doing, but I still want you to keep doing it. You know what I mean? It's like we like that grind. It's psychologically, it's just working for us, and it has been working since the days of the first MMOs, which were the first to really do this. Numbers going up, and then what's interesting about this, there's a broader conversation to be had here as games like this emerge, and we've seen successes and failures. Division and Division 2, obviously, kind of the two big standard bearers for this. I'm sorry, Destiny and Destiny 2, the two big standard bearers for this. Division and Division 2, I think, has been one of the more successful iterations of it. We've also seen epic failures. Look at Anthem. Avengers is really struggling, even with Square Enix and a major AAA franchise behind it. We're seeing just this week, the latest news from the developers has not been well received about how they're handling the XP grind and things like that. So it's really, really hard to strike this balance and get it right, even within the parameters that Bungie have largely kind of laid out for other developers in this space. This is what a game like this basically should be like. And it's, on the surface, fairly straightforward, right? There's a level grind until you get to end game, and then you start doing raids. And the raids can be interesting in and of themselves, because they've all got these epic bosses that require a fair amount of planning and strategy. Again, I used to play Warcraft. I remember this. Like, how are we going to take down these bosses? Well, you've really got to plan and figure out a strategy, and everyone has to work in concert. But it's really. I don't know if there's any. Is there an evolution beyond that, or is this now a fully mature genre, and that's just what these games are going to be, and it's more about tweaking, iterating that, or are we still seeing because it's still a relatively immature genre, right? These games have not been around for, like, Destiny's not that old. It was the first real big game like this, again, unless you count MMOs, which I think are the parent genre of this current one. But we're still figuring out how to do it. Clearly, Square Enix is still figuring out how to do it. EA failed at it, and they're now dialing back a lot of their, they dialed back a lot of their game as a service plan for Dragon Age. Like, let's not even go there. Like, it's too risky. It's too easy to get this wrong. Like, we'd rather play it safe, because it is really risky. Not everyone can get it right. Even Bungie, every day, I'm sure it's a headache for them. How are we going to keep up with our player base? And that's a tricky thing, right? They build this epically difficult content that takes them like 6 months or a year to build. They put it out there, and these elite raiding guilds have burned through it in a day, and they're like, what else you got? Right, and so
that's the problem.
And it's only even just one side of the problem, right? Because keeping the elite players that are going to grind 10 hours a day and know how to burn through this content, and that's one thing. But how do you scale content to be challenging for those elite players and still accessible there for more casual players? Because a lot of casual players get to the end of the first part of the game, the level grind, and then once the end game begins, the raids, they get frozen out, because suddenly those raids are really, really hard. And it's hard to scale that kind of content, for difficulty. You've got to have a really, organized group who are all on comms, who know how to play, different skill levels. You've got to put a lot of work into preparing for a raid, not just doing it. It's really, really hard, I think, to make this kind of game accessible across a broad swath of players, from the elite level players that are willing to make that commitment to the casual players. So I think, like with Destiny, for example, Destiny 2, I got to like power level 200, something in the low 200s, where the end game started to come in. I tried a few of the really hard raids. So, this isn't for me. I was done with the game at that point. And so you start to see a lot of players fall off, because unless you're willing to make that elite level player commitment to the end game, that game's not for you anymore. So I just kind of feel like there's a really, really interesting thing going on right now in just like the science of game design, where game designers are trying to figure out, again, this is still a genre, we're still kind of like feeling out the edges of it, like what's possible, what's a good idea, what's a bad idea. There are a lot of game genres out there that are really mature that we've been iterating on for decades, like platform games and shooters and things like that, where you can still innovate, but we basically know, where the perimeter is of that genre, what's a good idea and what's not. With these games as a service type games, as failures like Anthem and Avengers have shown us, we're still kind of learning as we go. We're trying things, we're throwing them at the wall, and a lot of shit isn't working. So I think it's a really interesting thing to think about what the future of this genre is going to be. Like 10 years from now, is it going to look radically different, or is it just going to be the same shit numbers going up?
It's going to have to be different because you hit on the argument that's been going on for like the past 5 years. The balance between satisfying your hardcore audience and satisfying your casual audience all at the same time, it's virtually impossible. Bungie's been trying to do it forever. They can't do it. Massive has been trying to do it in Division. They can't do it. Clearly Anthem couldn't do it. Hell, clearly the Avengers can't do it. So it's hard. I mean, I tend to say I'm more hardcore when it comes to that. So the problem that you run into that, if a raid's too easy, we're like, this was too easy. What are you doing? Make it harder. Then you make it too. But like, you're like, this shit's too hard. I'm not playing that. So it's like, how do you figure out that balance to get it right? And if you even look at Destiny, they're going more MMO now than they were just pure looter shooter, right? They've said the MMO word now because they realize they got to lean more into that if they're going to continue this franchise long term. So when you look at a game like Outriders, which is clearly not doing that, are they going to be able to sustain this long term? That's the big answer. Avengers, are they going to be able to salvage this somehow and bring it back? We don't know. Anthem is already tapped out. The Division, they were about to tap out, but then they got some community support, and now they are going to make some more additional content for it before they just completely move on to doing Star Wars and Avatar. So I don't know where this genre is going to be 10 years from now, because if you were to ask me, really only Destiny has been able to sustain itself for the long haul. And if you look at what Bungie is doing, the staffing up that they're doing, they realize, like you said, Gary, they work on something for 6 months, think, hey, this is great, and then it's consumed, in a day or two, and now we're like, give me more. I need more. So I don't know. It's going to be a fascinating thing to see where this looter shooter genre goes over the next few years, because like you said, EA has clearly realized they can't do it, and they're not trying this anymore with this live service stuff. Anthem failed. Battlefield 5 failed with it. They're not even going to try it now with Dragon Age. Where do you go next? I don't know.
And there's only a handful of companies out there that can do it, right? Because these are really big, expensive, ambitious games to make, right? You got to build a massive world. You got to keep iterating all the end game content. You've got all the server infrastructure. You've got a hungry, often very complainy community that you're constantly trying to respond to and satisfy. There's a handful of companies that actually just physically can, as a practical matter, build games at this level of ambition. So they're the ones that are going to. It's not like some little indie developer is going to come along and figure it out. I don't think.
No.
It's the Ubisofts and the EAs and the Activisions who are all developing their own games, and yet at the same time all looking at what each other is doing. Oh, that's interesting. We could steal that. And there is kind of a pool of institutional knowledge that's building up. And again, I don't know where it's going to take us. Maybe watching the numbers go up is going to be fine for a while longer. I mean, it has been for a long time. I mean, this goes all the way back to turn-based RPGs. Watching the numbers go up. So. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, maybe. But clearly something is broke, because we are seeing a lot of probably more so. I'm trying to think of an example in recent gaming history of a gaming genre that has led to this many high profile failures. Even just looking at Anthem and Avengers. Anthem's failed. I personally think Avengers is failing. Whether or not it's dead or more about it, I don't know. But right now it seems to be on the wrong trajectory. Those are two major companies that clearly threw everything they had at these games, and it didn't work out, or it's not working out. So it's I think a lot of these big companies jumped into this thinking there's a lot of money to be made in this, and that's the only reason they do it, right? These big companies, they're only getting into it. No one at these companies think, oh, we can delight millions of people. No, they want to make a lot of money, and they think there's money to be made through this business model of paying for this and and cosmetics this, and we can get people, playing this game and hooked for years playing it. We've got them for life, and they're going to get really invested in our community and in our universe, and they're going to keep giving us money. If you can get the game right, sure. If you don't know, and again, it's easier to get this genre wrong than it is to get it right now, because we're still learning so much about what does and doesn't work work in the genre, you can also lose a shitload of money as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Some really exciting stuff. And we're going to see up next is Outriders and the team for People Can Fly. They're up next and they have a big one ahead of them. They're going to be the conversation piece in this, games as service MMO type world. And it'll be really fun to see the future and where this goes. How does the release go? Is it smooth? Is it rocky? And then 6 months down the road, are we still talking about this game? Some really exciting stuff. But with that, let's take a quick moment to hear from our sponsor of the week, Freshly. This week, the Kinda Funny Xcast is sponsored by Freshly. Are you stressed, tired, just don't feel like cooking? Food that's fast doesn't have to be fast food. Freshly offers quality meals without the hard work of prepping, cooking, and cleaning. Grocery shopping and cooking can be a pain, especially right now. And with Freshly, you don't have to. Your meals arrive cooked and fresh every week, so you can keep your fridge stocked and skip the trip to the store. Recently, I tried Freshly and absolutely loved it. It fit my busy lifestyle and provided me with an easy meal in just minutes to enjoy with no cleanup, which was a delight. Plus, all the meals I tried were delicious. I loved the steak peppercorn, the penne, and the home-style chicken with the butternut mac and cheese, which I'm still thinking of to this day.
We just had the penne last night, Mike, and it was fantastic.
It is such a great meal offering. I really love Freshly, and I know this is an ad, but I'm telling you right now, it really fit my lifestyle, and I loved it, Barrett, our producer in the background. But right now, Freshly is offering our listeners $40 off your first 2 orders when you go to freshly.com/kinda. Stop stressing out about dinner. Go to freshly.com/kinda for $40 off your first 2 orders. That's freshly.com/kinda for $40 off your first 2 orders. Thank you to Freshly for sponsoring this episode. All right, welcome back, everybody. Let's keep our stories rolling. We have a nice Xbox Game Pass update for the month of March. Parris, Gary, if you guys are sports fans and our listeners are sports fans out there, you're going to be excited because a whole lot of sports titles are coming your way throughout the month of March. So here's your update. Madden NFL 21 is coming to console via that EA Play deal. That's available right now. Football Manager 2021 is coming on March 4th, so that's already available on PC. Football Manager 2021 Xbox Edition is coming to console and PC on March 4th. NBA 2K21 is coming to the cloud and console on March 4th. Star Wars Squadrons is coming to console via the EA Play deal as well. That's coming later on in March. No date set for that one yet. And then NHL 21 coming to console through the EA Play deal once again in April. Guys, whoa. As Xbox said, get your foam fingers ready because we're going to be playing a lot of sports. We're going to be rooting on a lot of sports. Any games jump out at you in particular? One to me, I'm a huge basketball guy, Parris. You know that, and we love to talk basketball, you and I. NBA 2K21 coming to console and cloud. Very, very exciting. But there's a little caveat to that, Parris. It is not the next-gen version that me and my friends have been playing. Of course, I'm a huge 2K guy. I've shoutcasted 2K for a number of NBA organizations, and it is interesting of like this game came out in September. Here we are heading into All-Star Weekend very, very soon. It's always exciting to be like, oh man, did you see that Xbox is giving you NBA 2K21, one of the best NBA simulation games on the planet? This is awesome. And the excitement is true, and that is cool. But then as well, I think to myself, well, me and my friends have the new console, but we're not getting the next generation. What's up with that? Parris, is there anything to, kind of give the stink face at with this caveat, or are you okay with it?
Nah, I'm not okay with it. It's a bummer because it just takes the air out of the balloon when you hear that news. You get so excited. Oh man, look at all these sports games that are coming. Oh man, basically the GOAT of sports games. You're going to be able to get it on Game Pass now. Oh, but it's the last gen. You're not going to be able to get any of the next gen features for whatever reason. I'm sure there's some legalese in there or whatever. But yeah, it's a bummer. You would expect, hey, Xbox is promoting smart delivery with all this stuff and all these things, next gen features. I have Game Pass. I'm a believer in Game Pass. I waited it out. I can get the game now. Oh wait, no, not really. You only get the last gen version. So it's a bummer. I would hope or wish that 2K, 2K or Xbox could explain the reason why so people understand, because that's literally, that's literally all people have talked about on social media the past few days that were excited about this announcement, that they're disappointed now because it's not the version of the game they thought they were going to get.
Yeah, and as well, like you can't play with your friends, right? Me and my friends have already
Yeah.
tested this and tried. Of like, we created our own My League, we drafted our own players, but our buddy who's still on the Xbox One and has the original version, he can't play with us, right? So this is a lined in the sand here type of situation with next gen and old gen, and it is cool to get the NBA hype going. I love that. We saw this back in the day with NBA 2K19 came right before the NBA playoffs, and it is fun to get, like you said, the GOAT of sports simulation right now. This is the hot game. This is the true big game right now. But it does kind of deflate the bubble of like, here's this cool announcement, but no, you're not going to get the next gen features. And I think they really shine on the new console, right? You really get to see those next gen graphics. The game runs smooth, it boots up fast, and it feels good to play. And it does suck to know like, oh, you're not going to get that next gen version. So that's too bad. Kind of deflates the fun, but it's still really, really good. I will put this out there of like, if you're a basketball fan or if you take advantage of these Game Pass updates, like we always talk about, right? NBA 2K is great. They have figured it out. They've gotten it down to a science of how it feels fluid. It is the closest sports game to feeling like actually playing, and it is so much fun. But the issue is NBA has always had a big issue with server stability. It is just awful to play online. The game goes from so smooth and fluid when you're playing by yourself or couch co-op with somebody to just a drag when you're playing multiplayer. It does not feel the same at all and just kind of misses the mark when you're playing online. So something to be mindful of when you go out there, but take advantage of it because it's super, super cool. Gary, any games jump out to you as a sports fan out there?
If I'm gonna play a current gen kind of sports game, FIFA is really my thing. The other games just kind of wash over me because I'm not particularly interested in those sports. So simulated versions of them aren't going to be much more interesting to me either. To you on Parris's point, though, I agree. Like it's really interesting how like game companies, they give and they take away in equal measure, right? Right as they figure out cross-play, they're like, yeah, but now there's cross-generation, and now that's fucked up. It's like that's not going to work now. It's really, really annoying. We've seen these various different companies employ different ways of, if you sometimes you'll get the free PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X upgrade. Other times you got to pay the $10 or buy the bullshit deluxe version in order to get that upgrade. One way or another, they're going to find a way to get some extra money out of you. In terms of this coming on Game Pass, I don't think this is a good look for Microsoft. I don't think this is helpful to Microsoft to be putting the non-optimized version of this out. Plenty of people, there's plenty of Xbox One still out there. People will play it on Xbox One, and that's fine. But a lot of people are going to play this on the Series X, and they're not all listening to the Xcast. They're not all like reading the blogs. They don't necessarily know if this game is or isn't meant to be optimized. All they know is they're playing this game on a Series X. It looks like an Xbox One game when they could be looking at something that would blow them away. Because what's particularly irritating about this is NBA 2K21, that next-gen glow-up that they did, when that first happened, everyone was raving about it, right? Because it really did look I remember Digital Foundry going nuts. This looks way, way better. Like, that's the version that you want. Like, if Gary, Microsoft doesn't want this. This is a 2K lawyer standing in the way of something going on here. Because for Microsoft, they want the Series X to sing, right? They want people to be happy with their purchase and feel like, man, this is next-gen gaming. That's what they want. And you're not going to get that as long as they're playing last-gen games on their system. The next-gen version's available. That really should be the Game Pass version. I think it's unhelpful to Microsoft for them to be putting these games out. There are a lot of gamers who aren't necessarily going to know whether it's optimized or not. All they know is they're playing a game on their Series X, and it don't look it looks pretty good, but it don't look like what a Series X game can and should look like. And we know it can because we know that version, the one you're getting. So there's some ridiculous contractual reason why this isn't happening. Business gonna business, and we've all been there before. But it's not a great deal for gamers. And again, I don't think it's helpful to Microsoft to have to present last gen versions of games. It's not like this is the best version that's out. If it was the only version that was out there and everyone was aware they were playing a last gen game, then that's fine. Yeah, I'm playing a last gen game. Ain't gonna look that great. But the better version, the way better looking version that will blow you away is out there. They just for whatever stupid reason can't give it to you on Game Pass. It's stupid and really annoying.
Now let's talk business for a moment because this is a big deal, right? Game Pass and EA Play has been an awesome one, and now we're seeing like, hey, it's not, there's different levels to EA Play and what they were giving us, right? The different tiers. And now it's like, yo, here's the biggest and the baddest sports games. We see Madden NFL 21, NBA 2K 21, not EA Play, but like NHL 21. They're giving you the best version right now. And you got to think on the business side, this is a big deal, right? Now, those people who have had that sports conversation of like, do I really need next year? Can I hold off a year? Can I wait? Now it's like, oh, it's on Game Pass. And then we're going to get all of you in there and you know exactly what they're going to click on. We've had this conversation before. They're going to my team and we're going to buy packs. And it's really interesting to see like, here's a huge business deal and an avenue for EA to make a lot of money to work with Xbox to be like, yeah, put these games over there on that service because, yeah, we might miss out on the initial $6 sale, but you're going to my team. That is the staple gameplay feature. Yeah. Exactly. And all of these new sports games, whether it be NBA, my team, whether it be Madden, my team, FIFA, my team, NHL now has a my team, you're going to that and you're going to play that and you're going to buy packs. No matter how hard you think that you are and you could stave off the packs and you won't do it, I defy you to play these games for more than a weekend and think that you're not going to buy at least one pack. It is so hard, Gary Whitta, to go into FIFA and not want to open up a pack and get Ronaldo. It is so hard, Parris, to go into Madden and try not to get Brett Favre. You know what I mean? I need these cards, Parris.
Let me tell you something. Cards. And again, this is another thing. We talked about the psychology of getting the pellet and how that works, with rats and humans alike. Like this, it's all true. And it's true here as well. I've talked about this before. During the whole microtransaction, fail that EA went through with Battlefront 2, we talked about this a lot. It was like a big thing, in the before times, in the pre-pandemic times, me and Greggy were on Kind of Funny a lot talking about microtransactions. And I do think they are really invasive and dangerous. And particularly with like FIFA Ultimate Team, which goes out to a lot of kids. There's a lot of stories out of the UK, for example, of kids like, scraping together all their pocket money or their allowance and spending them on nothing but these cards. And I do believe it is a form of gambling. They can call it surprise mechanics or whatever bullshit they want to come up with. We know they're teaching kids to gamble. Yeah. And I'm not even going to look at the comments for this week's episode because people are going to say Gary's full of shit. I know what I'm talking about, and I don't think this stuff is good. And this is why they're getting regulated, because they're not going to make, as long as they can make money, they're not going to decide to make less money. People are going to have to step in and say that's not good for people, and children in particular. You should not be doing this. But I picked up FIFA 21 because I do like the FIFA games, and when I got like a special edition that came with a bunch of packs, and I thought, oh, that's nice. But of course, you know what they do? They give you the first one for free, because they know that's what will get you hooked. So I'll open these packs. Well, let's see what I'll get. Let's see if I get Ronaldo or Messi or whatever. And I've talked about this before on other podcasts. There's a whole science now. There's a whole sub-science to the visuals and the sounds that go into these loot boxes and these packs opening. Like, it's almost like an orgasm, right? They want to make it feel as satisfying as possible. Like what are the visuals, like the way that like an Overwatch loot box, it kind of rattles a little bit and then it opens up with like a glorious shower of sparks and you're gonna go, oh, like it actually feels kind of good. And there's a science to that. They want you to feel satisfied when that box opens. And I remember getting my first set of like free Ultimate Team sticker, like the cards, the players, and they were just like shitty players. But then I got like a half decent one, and that's not an accident either. Like, they throw in like a half decent one to make you think maybe the next one will be even better. There was like a half decent player. I thought, ooh, yeah, maybe I could get some packs. I was like, you know what, Gary? No, they're getting to you. They're already doing it to you. Like you can see yourself going down this dark path. And I walked away, but it's so pervasive. It's so pervasive. Opening up those loot boxes, opening up those packs, getting those cards, and thinking, oh, maybe the next one. It's the same thing that keeps you pulling the handle of in Las Vegas, like, mate, on the next one. And next thing you know, you're broke.
Parris, do we see this, like, when you look at that and you hear this idea, do you think this will be a positive for EA and, of course, the partnership with Microsoft for them to look at this in the future and maybe bring these games even earlier onto Game Pass services like this because of the option of getting Gary and his family to buy more packs right away?
Yeah, I mean, excuse me. I think what you're probably going to see with EA Play in this Game Pass partnership is they're going to probably, obviously, whatever metrics and things that they're going to do. Oh my God, I really need to turn my phone off after this. Anyways, I think maybe this first year of the agreement is them to kind of get some metrics on seeing how quickly people are people actually buying the packs when they hop on Game Pass. I think if they're seeing a lot of engagement with that, absolutely, you could probably start to see these games come to Game Pass via EA Play a lot earlier than they are right now. It just like Gary's saying, it just makes sense. The first hit's free. They already got you to get you in the door. That's when the big money starts coming in, when you start buying all those packs versus that $60 you spend up front.
Yeah, I mean, it's really putting a game on Game Pass is really not that different to a free-to-play model, right? You make the base game free-to-play because you make your money all on the back end with the microtransactions.
Yep.
So it makes a lot of sense.
It's an interesting one. I do want to look at the positives, though. Of course, I'm a huge sports fan, and I love all of these sports titles. And one for me that I've really loved, and we've talked about before, right? That arcadey sports game that we've lost, right? The SSX Trickies, the NFL Streets, the NBA Streets, and so on in between that we've kind of lost over the generations. I do want to give some love right now to Madden, to NBA. You'll see it in the world of Shell of like these different offshoots that they've created within the game, right? In FIFA, there's Volta mode, which is like an indoor soccer, street soccer type vibe that you can play with your friends. I believe it's like 3-on-3 or 4-on-4. In Madden, they now have the Yard, right? Which the Yard is like this 3-on-3 football game where you can be the wide receiver, the running back, or the quarterback in a smaller football, similar to the FCF for our Wild Aces, which is a ton of fun. Of course, NBA has the city. You can go out there and play street hoops, which is a blast. And as well, NHL. If you haven't played the world of Shell, you're missing out on an incredible experience that they've created where you can play 3-on-3 hockey, where the penalties are turned off and it's nothing but big hits and fun experiences. And then as well, you can play 5-on-5 traditional hockey. And I really got to give some love to these sports games of understanding it's not just play now. It's not just my teams anymore. They found a way to get you involved in a different kind of multiplayer world that's not just head-to-head, and I absolutely love and adore that. I think Volta Mode, World of Shell, the City, and NBA, and the Yard and Madden have really found that groove that I'm missing in my heart without NBA Street and NFL Street, and I think they've done a great job. So I wanted to spread some positivity because I know me, Gary, and Parris, and everybody in between will get fired up about those packs, but got to shed some light on some other game modes that you can play that won't be getting all over your wallet, you know?
No, it's an interesting point, because we talk all the time about how much we want to see NBA Street come back. Or, another big one for me is NHL Hits, which I was a huge fan of. What you just described, Mike, is that game within NHL, like you said, 3-on-3, like big hits through the glass and no penalties. Like that's what NHL Hits was. So maybe we've been missing something here, because I've been saying like bring those games back. Maybe they already had, but I just didn't know about it because they're embedded within the other games.
They're there, Gary. They're there. They're not as classic and great as those other games, but they are there. And the foundation is starting to begin. And you can definitely tell over the years they're trying harder and harder to make these game modes more of a part of the regular game, right? It's not just an offshoot anymore. This is their focus. They want to create something cool. And also microtransactions do get involved, right? Like I can't avoid this, but like in NBA, you can buy your character to be progressed in level and attributes so you can get a better player right off the bat. Instead of starting at 68 with the UPS all brown outfit, you can jump into 89 and you can have an outfit that has tattoos and the Lakers gear on. Or in Madden and in NHL, blah, 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 there's cosmetics you can buy. And like they are finding different avenues of like, hey, here's monetization ways that we can get into this, but also making a fun and different game mode. So that's cool. Want to give some love to Star Wars Squadrons. This is a game that I wish I didn't buy because I knew I would only play it for a day. It's one of those, like, I knew what I was getting into. This is a dog fighting, flight simulating type game in the Star Wars universe. And I was pumped up like everybody else was. But I knew in the back of my mind, I was like, we're only going to play this for a night. And sure enough, we did. We played it for one day and I literally have not gone back. And I think the exciting part is like now it's on EA Play with Xbox Game Pass. More people will try it. More people will play it. And now we start to look as well, Parris, like I asked you about the sports games coming sooner. Should I hold off on these purchases? I think that will also be another balance we talk about, right? Of like, do I wait for this to come to Game Pass or do I just never think it will be there? Do I buy it day one? What is this balance as now a consumer with this?
I think you're going to start to see that as, wow, I'm having a rough time talking today. But I think you're going to start seeing that as Game Pass matures and you start seeing more people subscribe to it, where they're going to start making decisions with third-party games. Like obviously, the Microsoft stuff is going to be there day and date, but even what some of the third parties want, like if I was on the fence about a particular game, I could be like, well, maybe I ought to wait. Maybe I ought to wait on, as an example, Battlefield 6, if I'm not so sure I want to get it right at launch. Why don't I just wait a few months and see if it winds up showing up on Game Pass via EA Play, as an example, right? Or so a smaller game, just sticking with EA, like you're bringing up about the Star Wars game. Maybe that's not, I know that's something I'm not going to play long term. I'll play it a few times and have fun with it. Just wait a few months. Get it then. So I do think this is going to happen. Again, knock on wood, the rumors of Ubisoft Plus coming, that would be another example. You're obviously going to see that with other third-party publishers as well, where why should I go run out and buy it day one when it eventually will show up on Game Pass and I can experience it then? So it's a good thing as a consumer, but I think if that becomes a pattern, you could see that being an issue for third parties. Like, well, maybe I don't want to put my game on Game Pass. But again, we don't know the financials and the metrics and all that. Maybe it's still a win-win for them regardless. But
I've been, you know what? It's interesting. It's interesting you bring that up, Parris, because I've been thinking about that a lot. And, you know, we talk about Game Pass a lot on here, but, you know, Game Pass is a huge deal. It's a massive part of the Xbox platform now. And so, you know, you can't really do an episode without it coming up. But I've been thinking about the broader context of it recently and how it could potentially be good and bad for developers in different kind of theoretical scenarios. I've seen this a lot now, where a new game is coming out and I'll tweet something about it and a lot of people will respond and say, yeah, I'm going to wait for Game Pass on that one.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it could actually be hurting sales of some a la carte games because people are holding back without even knowing if it is coming on Game Pass or not. But just like the idea that it might, they will just wait. And it's you know, maybe if Game Pass didn't exist, they might have taken the plunge on a game. But as long as you've got that safety net of like, well, I could wait 6 months from now, I'll be on Game Pass, and I'll get to play it effectively for free. If that might be affecting the a la carte sales of games, because there is that kind of that safety net there for a lot of people to just hang back and wait. On the other hand, I've also been thinking about, could it also resurrect games that didn't succeed with the a la carte model? Like a game comes out at 20, 30, 50, 60 bucks, whatever. People don't engage with it and it's considered a flop, but it comes out on Game Pass. And because it's now exposed to a much wider audience, you know how like Among Us came out and no one played it, but then a couple of heavyweight streamers played it, and now it's one of the biggest games out there. It got like a second bite of the apple because it got a second wave of exposure. Game Pass could be that second wave of exposure for games that kind of maybe they failed the first time out as an a la carte retail product, but Game Pass then becomes the kindling that gives a wider audience, you know, an incentive to take a second look. And maybe the game becomes a hit through Game Pass. So I could see it going either way.
But see, this kind of goes back to something that we've been talking about for a while anyways, why I think subscription, this game subscription model is going to eventually be the future of the way we consume content, because it becomes a safety net for the developers, for their third-party publishers, that they know that they're, and again, we don't know the financials on example, but that's dedicated income that they know is coming in versus hoping their game standalone sells well. If you release it in the wrong window, it goes up against another game that's potential hit. It has terrible sales. All of a sudden, you got to cut the price of it in half. You got to cut it down, 50%, 25%, 75% to try and make back something versus, oh, it's on Game Pass. It's good. We know we have an install base of 60 million people, as an example, already subscribing to that service. I know I can expect this amount of income to come in no matter what. So that's going to be the balance moving forward, like you're saying, Gary, of that common phrase that you'll see on social media. I'll just wait. It'll be on Game Pass versus I got to go play that day and date. It's going to be fascinating to watch to see how this plays out, because Microsoft has still not told us how they're making money off of Game Pass. They seem to say that its current state, it's profitable for them, I guess. But how work?
I mean, obviously with the first party games, Microsoft, it makes sense for them to put their own games on the service, because that's what's going to elevate the service and make it seem like a good value proposition. But most of the games that are on Game Pass are third party games. Yes. Those developers and those publishers are not putting those games on Game Pass having not done their due diligence. Like you said, Parris, we don't know the numbers, but I guarantee those third parties do, because Microsoft people have gone in and said, here's the business case for putting it on. Here's how you will make money on Game Pass if your game takes off. Like here's the model. So there's obviously a model for third-party developers and publishers to achieve like profitability on Game Pass. Otherwise, they wouldn't have anything to do with it. Again, they're not doing this like maybe, let's hope. Microsoft has got all kinds of very impressive spreadsheets and pie charts where they can say they're making the case, the business case for putting these games on Game Pass. And look how many games are on Game Pass from different third parties.
Like I could even give you this example, and maybe this is a big extreme, but it's just a big game and it's top of mind. Like Cyberpunk, obviously it's had its issues here with its launch, and like right now, you walk into Best Buy, I think you could get that thing for like $20 right now. It's already on sale. That's a game, like you talk about a game getting a second life, getting a second chance, to gain an audience. That's like a perfect candidate to eventually go on Game Pass, right? Because now if it's on Game Pass next holiday, as an example, maybe you'll get people who, through all the bad press, didn't want to go play that game, but now it's a year later, it's been completely patched, it's in this great place to play, it has great word of mouth now. Oh wait, it's on Game Pass. Oh, I'll go pick that up. I'll go play it now. And now all of a sudden it has this big second life. But again, we don't know what the financial deals that Microsoft cuts on that. I know we've seen whispers with some developers. It seems like it's a good deal for them. It seems like there's a great financial incentive for them to put their game on that service, even for a limited time. But I do wonder for games that tank. See, the dog agrees too. Games that tank, what'll happen with those as far as having a second life? What deals look like? Do people just wait for that second chance? Do they not get things at launch? It's a fascinating to see how it plays out. Like I was saying before, over the next few years, as Game Pass as a service continues to grow, and can they sustain that price point of $15 a month? That's kind of one last thing, Gary. That's kind of my biggest thing. Can Microsoft afford to keep Game Pass at $10 and $15 a month as it continues to grow? That's my only fear when it comes to that service.
I mean, just from an inflationary standpoint, I mean, like the YouTube TV and Netflix jack my prices up all the time. Like they're constantly going up, and like but it's hard to walk away because they kind of got you, right. Like you love those services, and it's an extra dollar. You just go, okay, fine. So yeah, the prices will probably go up over the years. Cyberpunk's a really good example. What I was just talking about, Parris, the idea of like a game getting a second chance. And Cyberpunk is a game right now that desperately needs a second chance, right? That's the whole thing, is they're engineering the game towards this redemption narrative that they're desperate. They're hopefully get the game to a point where all the video game media outlets will be running those stories. Hey, guess what? Cyberpunk is good now. They did it. They fixed it all. It is the game that it should have been at launch. Even if they succeed with that, though, a lot of people are going to be really gun shy. I might not want to drop the $60 on it, if they were burned the first time or they heard really bad things the first time. But again, putting it on Game Pass could be, again, hey, it's good now. And guess what? There's no real risk because it's basically you already own it. Like just go download it. That for big high profile, I was thinking more just like little games that not necessarily are bad games. There's plenty of good games out there that haven't achieved the success they deserve just because there's so much stuff out there and only so much can float to the top. But Game Pass is a really great way to float stuff to the top. And so, that's actually a really good point you make specifically about Cyberpunk, and, that whole other redemption narrative storyline that we've been tracking, putting it on Game Pass, maybe. And again, don't forget, it got pulled from the PlayStation Store and it's still not back.
No, if
that came back and was on PlayStation Plus, that would be a big part of the redemption narrative that I think that CD Projekt's looking for right now. It's a good point.
I love that. Finding the balance. That has been this episode of the Kind of Funny Xcast. We've talked about finding the balance as your games as service, finding the balance in Xbox Game Pass and these games that are coming to us via EA Play and all of these third-party developers. A whole lot of fun to talk about, but here's some quick rundowns before we got to get out of here. Of course, you have a brand new Inside Infinite now live over on the Halo Waypoint blog. I highly advise y'all to go check it out. I know it's 10 pages. It's a lot of reading, but it's so much fun, and it gets me so energized and excited for what we're going to see with Halo Infinite. This one is all about bringing the Halo world to life with Zeta Halo, so make sure to go check it out. They have the campaign art lead, the gameplay director, and the world design lead all on the blog post. It's a ton of fun. It's a great read-through. Go check it out. We'll probably talk about it next week. And about next week, Gary Whitta wants to talk achievements with myself, Parris, and all of you out there. So, as Xbox gamers, you know achievements, you know your gamer score, you know what makes you satisfied, what gets you excited about popping that next achievement. So here's the deal. My good friend Jez Corden over at Windows Central put up a great article all about achievements, chronological, the history, where they are today. And so go out there, read that, think about achievements, think about what you want and how Xbox and Team Microsoft can elevate the achievement world. I'm going to reach out to some good friends who I know are deep into the achievement hunting community. Maybe we'll bring on a special guest, one of your favorite achievement people out there, and they will come bring that out. Another fun one that I want you to go check out is a friend of the show, Colt Eastwood. Colt Eastwood just put out an incredible YouTube video all about Phil Spencer and how Phil Spencer is changing the gaming world forever. This is a really fun one, Parris. I see you nodding your head, and you know that I love getting to know you, right? I love getting to know all of these people that work so hard on the things I love. And I think a really cool one is like Colt really hit it of like getting to know Phil Spencer, right? We've seen him up on the stage. You hear him talk. You get to watch him all the time. But like, do you know his background? Do you know what the things he did and overcame and where he got to today? So it's really fun. Go check out that YouTube. I'll make sure to link both the article from Jazz and Colt Eastwood's YouTube in the YouTube description here on the video. Your free play weekend is Going Under and Descenders. Greg Miller looked at Parris Lilly and said, play Going Under. So you have a weekend to go check it out. He loved it. And I will give you the quick rundown of it because it actually sounds kind of cool. Going Under is a satirical dungeon crawler about exploring the cursed ruins of a failed tech startups. As an unpaid intern in this dystopian city of Neo Cascadia, you will wield office junk as weapons as you make your way through the offbeat procedurally generated dungeons beneath your company campus. Okay, I'm kind of sold on that. I like the sound of it. I can see Gary Whitta getting into that as well.
Yeah.
Descenders is one of my favorite games around. That is procedurally generated downhill extreme mountain biking. If you love SSX Trick, if you love skate, you're going to love Descenders because it's one badass game. It's furious, it's fast, and it's a ton of fun. Of course, your games with gold for March 2021. Warface Breakout, Vicious Attack Llama Apocalypse, Metal Slug 3, and Port Royale 3. And then finally, there's a gigantic Ubisoft publisher sale going on until March 15th. Go take advantage of it. Up to 75% off a number of titles. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I bought a bunch. Okay. I went a little crazy with the wallet. I couldn't refuse. So I picked up Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Origins season passes, the Ezio collection, South Park bundle, and all of the Splinter Cell games. Just to tease y'all a little bit to go check it out. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is currently $35. Immortals Phoenix Rising, $29.99. Far Cry 5, $15. Rainbow Six Siege, $9. South Park Bundle, Fractured But Whole, and The Stick of Truth, $23. Far Cry 4, who now got an FPS boost, is only $7. Steep is $8. Ghost Recon Breakpoint, $15. And Watch Dogs 2, another FPS boosted title, $10. So something to check out there. I love these big sales and definitely wanted to shine a light on it because I know I bought a bunch of them and man, oh man, I love seeing sales. It's
Mike,
one of my favorite things.
I encourage you to go down a nostalgia trip and open up that Ezio trilogy this weekend. That's what I'm going to encourage you to do. It's such a fun trip to go back.
I love when you encourage me to have some fun in those Assassin's Creed worlds. That's going to do it for us here on the Kind of Funny Xcast. We're going to jump into the post show with all of our live patrons right now. But Gary Whitta, let's go around the horn. Where can everybody find you? What awesome stuff are you doing this weekend? And what are you going to be playing?
I'm going to be playing. I jumped straight into the next Yakuza title on my list. I'm a few hours into Yakuza 0, and it's a bit of a switch for me. It's a very different style of gameplay. It's Like a Dragon. The first game that got hooked into me is very different than all the other Yakuza games. I was used to playing Yakuza as a turn-based RPG. Now it's a brawler. I mean, and that's what it always was. Right? And we switched it with the most recent one. I'm kind of experiencing that change backwards. But I'm really enjoying it so far. I love the Yakuza games. I'm going to continue with it. Playing a little bit of I did put a few hours into Watch Dogs 2 because I was curious about that. I like the fact that setting's a big deal for me. I like the fact that the game's set in San Francisco. It's kind of cool walking around a very recognizable version of a city that I know well. And yeah, the FPS boost hype is real. One runs beautifully on my Series X. Twitter, Gary Whitta, Twitch, Gary Whitta, just my name, and YouTube as well.
Sounds great. Parris Lilly, what are you up to? Are you going to run some Clubhouse speaking arrangements? Are you going to be on Twitter doing spaces? I actually got to jump in to a Parris Lilly Twitter space a couple nights ago, which I loved. And I'm a big fan of just sitting there and listening, right? It was really cool to listen to you and your guys talk about everything. So what are you going to be up to this weekend, Parris?
What am I going to be up to this weekend? That is a good question. Well, I do know I'm going to be doing a WandaVision spoiler cast with Alana Pierce, our former co-host here. So I'm going to be doing that Saturday night. That'll be live on her YouTube channel. What else am I doing? It's funny you brought up Yakuza 0 because I'm playing it as well, so I need to jump back into that. I've been on a Mario Maker 2 kick as well. I've been playing a lot of custom levels on there. That's been a lot of fun. I will continue to play Halo 5, and I'm also playing a lot of Spider-Man on the PlayStation 5. So I'll try and mix some of that in too. But where you can find me Gamertag Radio. Obviously, you can find me here on Kind of Funny, and you can find me on social media at Vicious696. And if you catch, I have been beta testing Twitter Spaces on there. You might catch me on there talking about some nonsense.
It's always a good time. Go check him out on the Twitter Spaces. I loved it. Of course, I'm one of your hosts, SnowBikeMike. You can find me on all my social medias at SnowBikeMike. I'll be playing a ton of games this weekend because I just love playing video games. And I'll be joining our good friends over at Windows Central. My friend Miles is having me on for the Xbox Chatter Days tomorrow. So if you're listening now, I'm probably live over there. If not, you can go catch the YouTube over on the Windows Central page. But it's going to be a ton of fun. I love those guys over there. And I'm a big fan of Miles, so I can't wait to just hang out and chop it up on a Saturday afternoon. With that, on behalf of Barrett Courtney, Parris Lilly, Gary Whitta, and myself, thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of the Kind of Funny Xcast. We'll see you next week. Go play a bunch of games and be good. See ya.